The demand for battery metals, especially lithium, has been rising dramatically over the last few years and will keep growing pretty quickly for quite some time, according to many experts. Not a lot of lithium, though, is coming from Europe yet. So Global Battery Metals, ticker GBML, the company we're introducing today, is even more interesting because of the location of one of its projects called Northwest Leinster, I presume, in Ireland. We're talking to CEO Michael Murphy today to hear more about this and his plans for the company's other projects, of course. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Michael, before we start talking about Global Battery Metals, please tell us a bit about yourself. Give us a bit of background, or tell us your track record.
Sure. I started my career in London working with two big U.S. investment banks for sort of 14, 15 years. More relevantly, when I moved back to Vancouver 13 years ago, I took a $4 million shell and we turned it into Torex Gold, which is, at its peak, was about a $2.5 billion company. We raised over $1 billion, put it into production, and last year produced just under 500,000 ounces of gold.
Oh, nice. Great. So you know how to do it from the very beginning of the life of a company to production. Well, let's see how it goes with the Global Battery Metals. I already alluded to the Northwest Leinster project. Tell us about that, please. How did you happen to pick up a lithium project in Ireland, of all places? What do you have there? I think you recently published some exciting results.
Yeah, sure. So I'll take the first part of the question first. Ireland has a very rigorous reporting system. Every 2 years, if you have an exploration claim, you're due to file a very thorough report. Our last report was 168 pages, to give you an example of the thoroughness of it. So what we did with our partners is we hired some geology students and got them to go through literally and read all these historical reports. As a result of that, we initially found 15 claims or licenses, which we refer to as northern claims, as interesting. We did some prospecting and some sampling, which we continue to do, and have had some success with that. Last June, we found the 16th license, or we call the southern license. This one's interesting because, again, it suggested that there was some lithium in the area, but more importantly, a report from 1979, when some fellows were looking for uranium, they found a spodumene dike. So we thought that was interesting. It's one thing to have the grab samples on the surface. That's a nice place to start for sure. But what's really important is, do you think you got half a chance of finding the source of it? So we went down last summer and did a little bit of a recon. We grabbed a few samples here and there just to test, was there mineralization? Just, really, we spent an afternoon at it. We came back with half a dozen rocks, all sort of over 2% Li2O, which encouraged us. We then took the license, and November and December of the year past, we've done a fairly thorough prospecting program on this 16th license. And that looks like we took 66 grab samples from the property. 70% of those samples return grades over 1%, and about a third of them return results of over 2% Li2O. And then we had two sort of barn burners at 3.5 and 3.75%. So then we also did what we call deep overburden sampling, which is basically done over a grid. So 25 meters to the left, 25 meters to the left, and then you come down 25 meters and you do it all again. This is blind testing. There's a glacial till over the bedrock, and you literally drill a little hole an inch or so deep down, hit the bedrock, take a rock sample from the bedrock. We're waiting for those assays. Those assays are really random. We can't see the rock. So I'm not expecting, the ppm on our best sample was 17,000 ppm. I'm not expecting that on this deep overburden sampling, but it will certainly give us an idea of trends of where the lithium is moving and help us figure out whether the dike we've identified is the best one to drill and if there are other dikes.
Okay, well, Interesting. There's certainly something to look forward to. Can you already, or have you an idea when those results will come back?
Well, we should have the results and the analysis of the results within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, well, look, something to look forward then. So what are the plans once you have those results for Ireland, and where would you like to be with the project at the end of this year, let's say?
Oh, well, we've got our plans are a little more ambitious than the end of the year. I suspect we'll do a little bit of trenching. We're still kind of trying to decide where and if that's the best way to go. We will unquestionably be drilling, and it's a matter of how many targets we think would be appropriate. The deep overburden sampling will help inform that. The drill permit application process in Ireland is very straightforward. It tends to take typically 2 to 8 weeks to get a permit. The drilling is really easy. We're drilling, 150 meters down, super easy access. It's on a farm, so it's about as easy. It's about as easy as it gets, really.
Okay. Well, certainly something, a lot of things to look forward to then this year of the results, the trenching, the drilling. So we see how it goes, and I hope we can talk in a couple of months then and see what happened there in Ireland. That's not your only project, so let's turn to a different, completely different area of the world, which is Utah, where you have the Lithium King project, I think it's called, which is a brine opportunity, I think.
Correct. So we found this in a not dissimilar fashion to how we identified the Leinster project in Ireland. We went and found a whole bunch of old technical reports. We found some old oil drill logs. There's no oil there, in case you were wondering. We found a bunch of old USGS, U.S. Government Geological Survey, drill holes in the area. The USGS holes were only sort of 10 meters deep. The aquifer that we've identified starts at about 300 meters and goes down to about 1,200 meters. But what's interesting is the grade in these USGS holes was up to 1,200 ppm. And kind of as a rule of thumb, anything above 250 ppm, is kind of economic. And if you believe the direct lithium extraction or DLE companies, anything at 50 ppm is attractive. So if that grade holds together when we get down, when we drill it, it's going to be pretty exciting. The project's fully permitted. There's a rail line right beside it. There's a highway right beside it. There's power. There's people. I mean, I was going to say it's about as easy as it gets, but it's not quite. We were prepared to drill it in August, and due to torrential rain, this is an old dried up lake bed where we're drilling in. The ground was just too soft. So we're going to wait, I think, till March, probably till, the weather dries up a little bit, and then we'll be out in the field again. But we're ready. We've engaged a drill company. We've got the permits. We're ready to go.
Okay, well, that's certainly interesting also with the brine projects in general, that you don't have to drill as many holes as you need to drill with the hard rock project to get to a resource. So I'm assuming that's the same. That's the case.
Yeah, I mean, when you drill brines, they tend to be more homogeneous, and you can use some different tools to estimate the size of the basin, etc. Drilling hard rock, you really kind of got to, drill it out to, figure out where the dike goes, and the grade's a bit variable and whatnot. So getting a resource on a brine is considerably easier and considerably less costly.
Okay, so I'm assuming when you start drilling in March. So it's going to be a couple of months to two, and then we should have results there. And I'm
hoping the results come sooner than that. The wild card a little bit is the weather. Like, I mean, if we get the rain again, maybe it's April, but it's that time of year. We don't take a lot of samples. We take 12 1-liter samples as we go down. As a first pass. So it's once you can get in the field, it's pretty straightforward. It's just, we don't want to spend a whole bunch of money building road access until we know what we got there.
Sure. Well, exciting stuff, I'm sure, especially in the current environment for lithium companies, as I alluded to in the beginning. Now you have, I think, another project yet in another part of the world, which is Newfoundland.
Correct.
I haven't heard much about lithium companies there, but more about gold has been spectacular. Some results there. But tell us a bit about that project. Did you find lithium?
You mentioned the gold bonanza rush that's happening in Newfoundland. Newfound Gold, I think, has a 500,000 meter drill program underway, and they basically hired or rented every person, pickup truck, and piece of equipment in the province, from what I can tell. Yeah. So we were obliged to, by provincial rules, to do a certain amount of work this year. So we did the work. We did it late in the season and rushed, to be honest. So we did find pigmatite. The pigmatite dikes we found were marginally mineralized. We've got lots of other areas to go look at. We staked the property, again, looking at historical reports. Another company down the road from us, had drilled some economic intercepts. The provincial soil sample report showed there was better grade on our property. But to be honest, we rushed it in at the end of the year. Guys were doing rock samples while it was snowing, collecting rock samples while it was snowing. So we'll go back and do a more thorough job, next year. The focus really now for us, though, is Ireland and Utah. And if we can find something in Newfoundland, that would be great also.
Okay, well, good to know. So drilling in Utah, trenching, drilling in Ireland, all that work and whatever work you're going to do in Newfoundland, that's going to cost money. Well, what's your financial situation there? Do you have to go to the market?
For sure. So we've got about $1.1 million in the bank, Canadian. We can afford both drill programs with that capital. We've got a lot of warrants that are in the money. There's a handful of investors that own kind of 40% of the company who are super supportive of what we're doing. So I'm not particular. I'm aware of the financial position, but it doesn't worry me. If we need more money, the warrants will get exercised and we'll have the money.
Good. That's good. Certainly good to know. Then how many shares are out at the moment? What's your position?
67 million something. I can't remember what comes after the 67.
Okay, that's not too much. Certainly, I'm talking to couple of Australian companies. That's a different situation over there. I like to have more paper out. Okay, so when we spoke about those projects, then tell us a bit, in your opinion, just sort of a roundup, why now might be a good moment in time to take a closer look at the company.
That's a really, really good question. And I like getting that one. We have spent years to get to where we are now, like 2, 3, 4 years, getting the permits, doing the baseline work, doing, the really grassroots research. Now we're ready to drill. Now we're ready to, demonstrate that we actually have something. So this is a culmination of a couple of years' work in Ireland and in Utah. And it's now, as one of my guys says, it's now ready for prime time. Like we actually now believe we've got something. My view was it wasn't worth, taking investors' time until you were pretty confident you had something. We're now at that stage.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it works out. Thank you very much for taking the time talking to us, and we'll be sure to check up on your progress. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.